On the morning of February 24th, 2023, two people were getting ready to go somewhere. One of them was already home, asleep upstairs in her own bedroom. She had no idea she would not see the afternoon.
Who is the gentleman that just walked out?
Huh?
Who is the gentleman that just walked out?
It's Brendan. It's her husband.
He lives here?
Yeah,
Okay.
we all live here.
Okay. So you live here as well, but you're an au pair?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you hit with anything? A knife? Anything?
No, I took the knife. I took the knife from him.
Okay. All right. So you're not hurt anywhere. Is that not your blood, correct?
I think it's...
The other was driving toward a house he had never seen, believing a woman he'd been messaging for weeks was waiting for him. They had never met. They had nothing to do with each other. Different lives, different cities, different reasons for being awake that morning. By that evening, both of them would be dead, and the man responsible would already be on the phone with 911, describing himself as the hero.
Did a former IRS investigator commit 2 murders all to cover up an affair with his au pair? Prosecutors say the answer is yes.
Knife's there, guns are on the bed.
Can you help him? Just be with him?
Yep.
People upstairs. I can talk to her if you want. Thank you. I'm sorry. What's going on this morning?
I was going out.
Her name was Brendan Banfield. She spent her life keeping other people's children alive. His name was Joseph Ryan. He spent his life rescuing the dogs nobody else wanted. Neither of them did anything wrong. Both of them walked into the same trap, built by the same man, on the same morning. This is the au pair affair, and for the first time, this is both of their stories. Together, welcome to Darkest Crimes. Brendan Banfield was 37 years old. She worked as a pediatric intensive care nurse at Inova Fairfax Hospital. Every day, she walked into rooms where parents were watching their children fight for their lives. And her job was to be the calm in that room. Colleagues said she was a mentor, someone who lifted everyone around her. Amanda Oliveira knew this better than almost anyone. She had lived with the Banfield family years earlier as their au pair. She and Brendan stayed close long after that. Brendan was an amazing mom, an amazing friend, Oliveira said. She took care of everyone around her.
An amazing mom. An amazing friend. It wasn't hard for her. She loved what she did. She loved her job. She loved helping others. I miss her laugh.
Oliveira remembered Brendan's dedication during the pandemic. It wasn't hard for her. She loved what she did. She loved helping others. Brendan would work long shifts and still come home eager to hear about everyone else's day. She met Brendan in college. They lived in New York first, then moved to Virginia when Brendan became an IRS special agent. They settled in Herndon, had a daughter. From the outside, a federal agent, an ICU nurse, a little girl. It looked like the American dream. But before any of that, before Virginia, before the badge, before the hospital, Brendan was a little girl in New York, with an older sister named Danielle. They chased fireflies together, slept side by side on the floor in sleeping bags. At Brendan's sentencing, more than 3 years after Brendan was gone, Danielle stood up and said this: "When she was born, I became we. I haven't stopped saying we when I speak about my childhood after her death. Except now when I do, it takes my breath away."
As Christine's sister, I didn't just lose her. I had to sit and listen to a version of her that did not exist. I will tell Valerie how much she was loved by her mother, and I will forever carry both the grief of losing her too soon and the gratitude of having loved her for 37 years and being loved by her in return. That bond will not end because we will always be sisters. I can still hear her laugh in my head.
That's who Brendan Banfield was, someone's we. Joseph Ryan was 39 years old. He lived in Washington, D.C. No criminal record, No history of violence, no connection to the Banfield family. By every account, he was ordinary. A regular guy living a regular life. His mother, Deirdre Fisher, called him her confidant, her biggest ally, her cheerleader. And she told the court something that tells you more about who Joseph was than any headline ever could. Joe was a guy who believed in fighting for the underdog, and even actual neglected dogs, Fisher said. He would walk into an animal shelter and ask for the oldest, ugliest dogs, the ones nobody else wanted. Bring them home, love them for years. That was Joseph Ryan. He used social platforms, including a site called FetLife, to meet people with similar interests. A retired Fairfax County police captain who worked this case described him simply, Joseph Ryan was baited and hunted. He didn't know the profile he'd been messaging for weeks wasn't real. He didn't know the photos, the name, the conversation. All of it had been built by someone else. He didn't know the house he was driving toward belonged to a man who had already bought the gun that would kill him.
I think Brendan shot him, and he asked me help to shot him too because
I was extremely terrified.
Was to flip her against my client.
He just thought he'd been invited. A man who rescued the dogs nobody wanted was about to be used by a man who wanted to throw someone away. Before we go any further, which one of them are you thinking about right now? Christine or Joseph? Drop a comment and tell us where in the world you're watching this from, because neither of them ever left that quiet street in Herndon, and their story just reached you. In 2021, the Banfields hired a new au pair, Juliana Perez Magalhães, 21 years old, from outside São Paulo, Brazil. She moved into the house to help care for the Banfield's daughter. Remember Amanda Oliveira, the previous au pair, the one who became one of Christine's closest friends, the one who, years later, would stand up and say, Christine's family, they are my family. Juliana lived in that same role, in that same house. By August 2022, Brendan and Juliana were having an affair. He told her he loved her, told her he wanted to marry her. There was a framed photo of the two of them on the nightstand in the bedroom he shared with his wife. He was learning Portuguese, and according to Juliana's testimony, Brendan told her he needed to get rid of his wife first. Why not just leave? Because Juliana said she would have more money than he would, and because he wanted custody of their daughter.
Did he ever talk about getting a divorce with her?
No, he basically said divorce was not an option.
Did he say why?
Money was involved. Money was involved in Valerie's custody too.
And what about those things? Did he say anything specifically about money or Valerie's custody?
Yeah, he said that he didn't want to have to share Valerie with Christine, that she wasn't good for Valerie. So he wanted to have Valerie full time. And money, because she should have more money than he would if they ever split.
Divorce meant splitting everything, a custody fight, losing control. So instead, he opened Christine's laptop and built a fake profile on FetLife, a fetish-focused website, using Christine's name, Christine's photo, Christine's identity. The profile went looking for someone, Juliana said, who liked to play violent, someone who could show up, someone who could be blamed. Joseph Ryan answered that profile. For weeks, someone posing as Christine, controlled entirely by Brendan and Juliana, messaged him, built trust. Ryan was told to bring restraints, rope, a knife. He had no reason to doubt any of it. Here is the detail that should stop you cold. The plan was to let Ryan bring that knife into the house, and then, once he was inside, Brendan would use that same knife on Christine. Ryan's fingerprints, Ryan's weapon, Ryan's body, a perfect frame. On January 28th, 2023, Brendan bought a gun. In the weeks before the murders, he drove Juliana to a gun range, trained her to shoot. Everything was in place. February 24th, 2023. Christine. She was upstairs, in the bedroom. Her phone wasn't with her. Brendan had taken it, turned it off. Joseph. He was driving toward Herndon, Virginia, toward a house he believed belonged to a woman named Christine, a woman he had never spoken to in his life. Downstairs, Juliana was with the Banfields' 4-year-old daughter. Brendan had driven to a nearby McDonald's. He sat there and waited. An unfamiliar SUV pulled into the driveway. He parked, got out, walked toward the front door of a house he'd never seen, believing he'd been invited. Juliana called Brendan. "I don't know who is that. Please come here. I'm scared." Those were her exact words, captured on body camera footage. Later, she took the 4-year-old to the basement, gave her a tablet, closed the door. Brendan came home, came in through the basement, left his daughter down there. He walked through the front door. He had no idea what he was walking into. Brendan entered the bedroom, announced himself as a police officer, and shot Joseph Ryan in the head. Ryan fell. He was still alive. At Brendan's direction, Juliana made a brief 911 call, hung up after a few seconds. That call was made 13 minutes before the call that actually brought police to the house. In those 13 minutes, Brendan picked up the knife Joseph Ryan had brought with him, believing it was part of someone else's fantasy, and he used it on his wife multiple times, in her neck, in their bedroom, a woman who spent her career keeping children alive, stabbed by the person sleeping beside her every night. When Ryan showed signs of movement, Juliana shot him again. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The second 911 call told police a different story entirely. An intruder attacking Christine. Brendan shooting him in self-defense. On that call, Brendan said, "There's somebody here. I shot them." He stabbed her. "There's several marks on her neck. What do I do?" He knew exactly what marks were there, because he put them there. Christine went to the hospital. She did not survive. Juliana went to police headquarters. She brought the 4-year-old with her. And when police arrived at the house on Stablebrook Way, Brendan Banfield was on his knees, covered in blood, his hand on his wife's neck. 2 people, 1 house, 13 minutes. Neither of them saw it coming. He had been planning it for months. From the beginning, investigators had doubts. A stranger, uninvited, with a knife. And Joseph Ryan refused to drop it, even when a trained federal agent had a gun pointed at him. And that first 911 call, the one with the moaning man in the background, made 13 minutes before the one that brought police. Nobody had explained that. October 2023, 8 months later, Juliana was arrested, charged with second-degree murder. She held to the original story. Then, September 2024, police pulled Brendan over in a traffic stop. They had new evidence. Investigators going back through photos taken inside the house, room by room, detail by detail, and there it was, a framed picture on the nightstand. In the bedroom Brendan shared with his wife, Brendan and his au pair, together, dated October 13th, sitting there the whole time, in plain sight, in the room where Christine slept. Evidence of Portuguese lessons, Juliana's Brazilian passport, found inside the home. A home invasion doesn't have a framed photo of the affair sitting on the nightstand. Brendan was arrested, denied bond. 2 weeks later, Juliana sat down with investigators, talked for 4 hours, the affair, the planning, the fake profile, the gun range, all of it. Blood pattern analysis had already identified Brendan as the person holding the knife. She agreed to plead guilty to manslaughter and to testify against him. The trial began January 2026. 16 jurors, 9 men, 7 women. Juliana testified for 3 days, described everything. The defense came out swinging. Their theory, Christine had built the fake profile herself. She had wanted this, a violent fantasy. Prosecutors dismantled that in one afternoon. Christine had a medical condition, prone to nosebleeds, easy bruising. She didn't play contact sports because of it. A woman who couldn't risk a bruise from a basketball game did not invite a stranger over for a violent sexual fantasy. Then, the defense attorney went after Juliana's credibility, produced an email she'd sent her mother. She'd been offered $10,000 for an interview, believed she could negotiate higher. "We do deserve something," she'd written. "What is it you deserve something for?" the attorney asked her in court. "For everything we've been through," she said. Then Brendan took the stand, admitted the affair, denied everything else. Said he was extremely terrified to find his wife on the floor. He said he'd been on his way to a work meeting that morning. That's why he was at McDonald's. He was early. Prosecutors called his supervisor to the stand. One question: was there a meeting scheduled that morning? No. The supervisor had been in Baltimore on an undercover operation the entire morning. There had never been a meeting. Watch that land. An alibi Brendan had repeated for 3 years collapsed in the time it took one man to answer one question. February 2nd, 2026. 9 hours of deliberation. Guilty on all counts. 2 counts of aggravated murder, firearm offense, child endangerment. June 5th, 2026. Fairfax County Circuit Court. Every seat filled. 11 days earlier, Juliana had been sentenced. The prosecution recommended time served. Judge Penney Azcarate disagreed. That is the most serious manslaughter scenario this court has ever seen. 10 years, the maximum. Before that sentence, Juliana apologized. "I hope someday I can be forgiven, as I hope to be able to forgive myself." Now, Brendan's turn. Joseph's mother, Deirdre Fisher, spoke first. "My son's life was used and thrown away, seen as worthless and utterly disposable."
My son's life was used and thrown away, seen as worthless. For my loss as his mother, I don't believe that's possible. What I do hope is that, even for a moment, that the world and you, Judge, will say Joe meant more than nothing, that he was someone worthy of dignity and life.
Joseph's aunt, Sangeeta Ryan, stood next. "He didn't just take Joe and Christine from us. He tried to erase the truth of who they were." Then Christine's sister, Danielle, stood up and looked directly at Brendan. His actions were not driven by love, but by a desire for power, deception, and a complete disregard for the lives he destroyed. Then it was Brendan's turn to speak. Most defendants in this moment show remorse, acknowledge the people they hurt, ask for mercy. Brendan spent 10 minutes re-arguing the evidence. He told the court he loved his wife, that although he'd had affairs, he never intended to leave her. And he said something else, something almost no one in that courtroom expected to hear. He claimed that after Christine had been stabbed, she apologized to him. Not one word about Joseph Ryan, not one acknowledgement of what he'd taken. Judge Azcarate was not moved. The disregard of the life of your wife, someone you supposedly loved, is almost unfathomable. She described the scheme: luring a completely innocent man into your deadly trap, continuing on after the murders without a care, and not once, thinking of the impact on his own daughter. 2 counts of aggravated murder, each carrying a mandatory life sentence in Virginia, plus 5 years for child endangerment, plus 3 more for the firearm. Life without parole, consecutive. Brendan Banfield will die in prison. After everything, Christine's father, Gary Benson, and her sister Danielle spoke publicly for the first time. They said they were speaking now because they didn't want Christine's name buried under the salacious details of a trial. The question that haunted them most wasn't complicated. Why didn't you just leave? He could have walked out the door, filed for divorce, just gone. Gary Benson described the man his daughter had married. He's living in a bubble, Let him live in his bubble, if that's the way he wants to live his life. What he has left of it. Joseph's mother, Deirdre Fisher, had her own final words about the au pair who helped take her son. I don't need to forgive her. I just need to move on, and my son's memory is intact. Christine Banfield, 37 years old, a pediatric ICU nurse. Someone's wee. Joseph Ryan, 39 years old, a man who saved the dogs nobody else wanted. Neither of them knew the other existed. Both of them were used by the same man on the same morning, in the same house. He's going to spend the rest of his life in a cell, thinking about how smart he was. Somewhere in Virginia, a little girl is growing up without her mother, because her father decided his comfort was worth more than 2 human lives. Christine Banfield, Joseph Ryan, say both names. Subscribe to Darkest Crimes. Drop a comment. Which detail in this case hit you hardest?